and dear friends. Once again, now of course it is time for farewell, but still a hearty welcome to this particular session. And this is in a way the valedictory session also. And I'm grateful that Dr. Pateria has designed it in such a way that, there is more of substance and less of formalities and ceremonials. We have had 2 days of brainstorming sessions, parallel sessions, and I was also privileged to chair one of the sessions. And I believe that most of the participants here had an opportunity to present their papers or be present in one or two of these seminars, these sessions. And I felt that a wide range of issues were dealt with. For example, I was chairing the session on environment and risk communication. But even in those specific sessions, there were issues related to, science, science communication, related to other disciplines also, and the various aspects. For example, one paper was on spiritualism and, science communication. That was pretty interesting. So I'm really glad that a whole range of people coming from interdisciplinary, an entire range of scholarship that we could witness during these 2 days, and many fruitful papers have also which can be later on used as reference material. I found that some papers were really good, and I would request Pateria Saab that when we sit together after this, event, then some of these papers can be published in the form of a book, and maybe Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and I would request Dr. Sunetra Narayan, who is also present here, and she's the head of publications. Maybe we can come out with a compendium of papers presented at this seminar in the form of a book. Of course, we can request the authors to broaden the perspective and maybe bring in some new elements to make it turn it into a chapter on science communication. And of course, we have our own research journals, and some of these papers we would be delighted to publish in that. I'm sure that Professor Vijay Parmar, who is also the editor of Communicator, which is our peer-reviewed, nationally acclaimed journal, which is also UGC approved, which Professor Parmar is heading. So we can also publish some of them there. I felt that the quality of papers were very good. The quality of exchange, what I would call idea exchange, that was pretty interesting. And there were a lot of young scholars, along with, of course, veterans and seniors. So there was a kind of an amalgam of, the old and the new thoughts, yet at the same time, enlightenment in the form of, experience which was present. So there was a lot of enthusiasm which I could witness during these 2 days. But at the end of the day, if you put it in a nutshell, the whole idea was, I think the common refrain these 2 days was that, science certainly is not being communicated the way it ought to be. And it need to be communicated in a much more effective manner and in a better language and in a language that would be understood by the relevant audience. Now, when we say masses, it need not necessarily mean that every information has to go to the, only we are aiming at the, say, at the villages. There are information, the whole idea is that relevance. I think that is most important. It's not about communicating to a whole lot of people to whom it is not relevant. So how is it relevant? I think that is more important. That when we look at it, that is this information relevant for a particular group of people? For example, if we are looking at e-wastage, may not be, I don't think, maybe at this stage, it may not be very relevant to the fisher folk. It may not be relevant to the, people working in agricultural lands in remote areas. But e-based would be more relevant to an urban audience, which is very gadget savvy. So they should be told. And there was very good suggestions also which came up during the interactions. For example, that whether the consumer at the time of purchasing a particular electronic item, is he being sensitized, is he being made aware of the how to dispose it, e-waste, how it is being disposed. That is something which has a great impact on our environment. So at the consumer end and at the producer's end, at the manufacturer's end, at the sale point, is there a communication? And maybe that also we need to really, how much are we talking about these issues which are very, very specific and which are very, very, I would say that catering to a specific audience, are they also being communicated? Because you cannot divorce them, because that's the new knowledge that's coming up. So when we talk about popularizing science, so we should also take into account the new developments, the scientific, the innovations, and how they are relevant to the audience. I think that is at the core of it, that how we are able to communicate information which is relevant to the readership. Somebody asked a very important question during one of the sessions that, well, we say that, radio has so much of listenership, but what are they listening to? What are they hearing? Radio has it, but are they the intended audience? Maybe if we are taking, say, information related to farm produce or related to fisheries, are they reaching the target audience? And are the target audience, yes, the target audience is listening, but are they listening to filmy songs, or are they listening to this particular program? I think that also needs to be taken into account. So I think that just by making sweeping remark that, okay, it is reaching so and so, but what is it that they are looking at? What is it that they are listening to? We have a small experiment out here, that's Apna Radio 96.9, which is a community radio station which we run from here and which we intend to run from all our campuses. Now, there is a program, I think it is the second edition we had recently, and that was on Teen Talk. And this Teen Talk talked about the problems faced by adolescent, adolescents. And they are mostly from government schools. So we work with NGOs, we work with, health specialists from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, from Fortis, and we reached out to them. And we had a session in which particularly the adolescent girls from government schools, they raised very relevant questions. Like they would say that, and these are the questions that come to their mind, that we are also studying, our brothers are also studying, but our mother expects us to help her in the kitchen, whereas, the boys are just left like that. They're either playing around or they are asked to study. But when it comes to us, we are being told to just first take care of the kitchen, and why it is like that? No? This is because we have reached out to them. So now they are asking these, important questions. So it's important that this kind of an awareness comes about gender equality, gender sensitization, and that is what. But then again, what is the reach of a community radio? We did this program, but how many people listened? So are these viewerships, listenerships, and readerships, are they being analyzed? That is also very important, that they are analyzed. The impact assessment studies are carried out. We have, as I told you at the outset, we have India's first exclusive department dedicated to communication research. Now we have been given a project on the publication division of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. They bring out these Yojanas and Kurukshetra and all that, they also carry a lot of, science communication. Now we are studying whether, who is reading it? Are they reaching the target audience? What is their feedback? So this is the same thing we have done with a project called Jago Grahak Jago, which was with the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. That how many people, governments have been running this campaign. I mean, every year there is a budget allocation for that. They will put that money and the campaign is on. But has it led to greater consumer awareness? I think that is the question. And I don't want to reveal it because it's already, it's something which we have already submitted to them and it is their property. But, well, I can only tell you that the report or the study was found a very dismal response. It was certainly not up to the mark about consumer awareness. Maybe about weights and measures, they had some kind of people were aware, but about expiry date, a lot of stuff, So I think the same holds true for science communication. Many of our institutions have been, doing it in a very religious, rather I won't call it religious, I would call it more as a ritual. We have been doing this, we have been publishing books. We also had a presentation by Vigyan Prasar. Vigyan Prasar is also doing its job. The Consortium of Educational Communication is there, CEC, which has again Swayam and the MOOC and everything is there. But finally, who are the takers? What about the quality? I think a lot of deliberations took place during these 2 days, but I think that's not sufficient. More needs to be done. So while we are talking about a lot of communication, but as I said yesterday also, that scores of journals are coming out of scientific institutions, science institutions. But who is reading them? And are they reaching, the relevant audience, the relevant information? Because at the end of the day, the success of science communication is when the reader feels that, yes, this is the kind of story I would like to read. It should draw your, what you call the eyeballs. That is where the success is. And in the absence of this science sensitization, a lot of stories are being dished out. Say China is building a big dam on Brahmaputra, and that is going to lead to big floods, and but that's more based on very hazy reports coming, and rather than any proper scientific impact. And I felt that many of these reportages were more about warmongering, rather than actual substantial issues which were being discussed, or making the citizens aware or alert to in the event of any such developments. The same I saw in Uttarakhand floods also. It was more a blame game rather than an actual study of how things went wrong and what went wrong. So I would really be more happier as a communicator if we are able to communicate the relevant information to the target audience, and that is where this the synergy between science and communication has to take place. Scientists and communicators have to take place, and this, I believe, is the right forum for communication. And maybe we can consider it on a later date, certainly, of having this conference simultaneously with the Indian Science Congress. I think that this is just a suggestion, by way of suggestion, that simultaneously, we can work with them, and maybe together we can, do it. But nevertheless, I believe that the deliberations were very fruitful, and the conversations that took place, these we are going to carry forward, certainly at our end, from the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and I'm sure the CSIR is also going to do it. But actually, the real success would be when each one of you who has participated in this takes forward this discourse, this dialogue which has begun, to the next level in your own respective institutions, in your own respective media platforms, and let this be a continuous 24 into 7 into 365 approach rather than an annual just 2-day jamboree where we all meet and go back our homes, relax that everything is fine with science communication. I think that we have to take it forward, and next year I would measure the success of the 17th Science Communication Congress not in the manner, the number of participants or the number of, how you like the food, and of course these are important elements, but for me the real measurement would be by next year when we meet, how much more science communication has increased in the country. For me that would be the real yardstick. Thank you for coming here, and once again a very hearty welcome to all of you, and we look forward to your participation in future events also. And for once again my sincere apologies on behalf of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication for any shortcomings from our end, and we can assure you that your inputs, your feedback will only help us to improve the next time you are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Suresh. I would now like to request the guest of honor and moderator of today's session, Professor Shambhunath Singh, to kindly moderate the roundtable discussion with the experts. Wherever you want.
Expert will go there and speak something with me. I'm the moderator. I can moderate from here. Yeah. And that will be reserved for experts. Okay. Very warm welcome to all of you in this roundtable session. This is almost concluding session of this 2 days. Delegate connecting from Europe. Okay. Yeah. Why not? One expert from Europe, and we are connecting them. We are connecting him with the Skype. Yeah, Sri Declan Keret. He is Managing Director, ISC Intelligence in Science, Brussels, Belgium. He is from Belgium. He is connecting with us, and he is going to their expert opinion about science and communicating science. Please welcome. Welcome to the round table. Welcome, Mr. Keren.
How are you?
Yeah, fine.
Greetings from Brussels.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So we can hear
Very
you.
good.
We can hear you.
Right. Should I begin?
Yes.
Very good. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And I want to congratulate you on organizing this meeting and dealing with what I feel is a very strong dimension to science. Now, I should just make a couple of points, and I hope they will be relevant. So I'll talk about two things really. First is some highlights of what is happening in Europe, and then perhaps I will make some comments on the role of communication strategies for science at global level. So I hope you can hear me okay. I have a slight echo, and I'm Irish, which means we sometimes talk too fast. So you let me know if I'm speaking too quickly. Good. So as I said, it's a pleasure to be with you. And just regarding what's happening in Europe, as you know, probably Europe runs a multi-annual funding program for science called the Framework Program. Currently, we are in the 8th edition of the 7-year funding program for science, and it is known as Horizon 2020. So we don't have time to do a lot of detail here today. So the point I would highlight to you is that the European Union is preparing the next iteration of this program, which will run from 2021 to 2028. So the preparation at policy level for this program will begin in 2018 in January, when the institutions start to put forward their broad ideas for what should be funded in terms of European Union science. And that process takes a couple of years. It takes 2 to 3 years for the full program to be fully agreed, adopted, and turned into legislation in time for funding commitments in January 2021. Now, an important aspect of this that I am experiencing in Europe is that science prioritization is becoming more political. By that I mean there is much more discussion in the European Parliament and the European Council around what priorities should be supported. That wasn't the case 10 years ago, where the adoption and priority setting process was much more, I suppose, confined and left to the scientists. Because policymakers now are, first of all, more concerned about spending in general, so inclined to look at spending commitments in all areas, including science. And in addition, there is a greater recognition of the contribution of science to broader policy objectives in the area, of course, for example, of education, broader economic development, agriculture, defence, security, and the greater realisation of the importance of the digital dimension to society and economy, which has as its basis a strong need for technological upskilling. So in all of this, I am seeing a greater need for science communication in general, but very importantly, and the point I would like to make this morning, is to recognise the unique need for science communication with policymakers. Of course, I'm here talking about the European Union, but I would argue this matters globally. So that's my, if you like, global theme. Quite specifically, I would also say to you, science communicators in India, that we generally don't know nearly enough about what is happening in science and related activities in India. And as the European Union orients its program to align it more closely with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, I feel that there's greater necessity for the science community in India to ensure that partners and potential partners, in covering both scientists and indeed the related policymakers, know and understand what forms of collaboration are possible with India and how they can be achieved. I would also be of the view, and I'm sure you will agree with me, that Indian science has a lot and much to contribute to science making, science policy making at a global level. So I think this is something I'd like to highlight. Now, in terms of how that can be done, I would point to particularly the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, and an issue we have been working with the UN on is promoting the role and contribution of science to achieving the SDGs in a global context. And of course, this will be a long process. It will be a process that necessarily involves many block countries, many nations, many continents, and in that, I would like to stress my view that communication strategies to engage global policymakers and put before that key ideas, key options, and key demonstrators for how science and science collaboration can support the objectives set forward in the SDGs. For example, in the area of health. And I think everyone would agree that health challenges, if anything, are global challenges. The response needs to be science-based and global. And I think, therefore, if policymakers are being made more sensitive and sensitized to this, it will therefore increase the likelihood of these objectives being achieved. I think the coincidence for today is that the European Union will provide greater support, including financial support, for international cooperation in the next framework program. But of course, that demands communities and constituencies, including the science community in India, to advocate for their issues, their challenges, their responses to challenges, and to see how they can fit within that European collaboration mechanism and also the global platform, again, epitomized by the SDGs. Particularly, also, I and others are planning a series of meetings around the United Nations General Assembly in New York in September of next year on precisely this point, to put forward science solutions. For example, we will be paying great attention and putting forward proposals around science capacity building, and of course this is in no sense new. However, the global dimension is very important to consider how science capacity can be elevated and how science enabled, data-enabled science for addressing SDG objectives could be enabled through global cooperation. But this needs, first and foremost, a response. The other point I would like to highlight today is the increasing relevance of regulations and the impact on science. For example, the European Union is putting in place regulations covering the data protection. The regulation is known as the General Data Protection Regulation. There are other regulations dealing with privacy and e-privacy, with, for example, clinical trials, medical devices, and a range of other regulations. My point is these regulations are impacting on how science will be done. Very specifically, how personal sensitive data can be used for medical and health science. And these are examples that are very, very particular, they're very impacting on science policy, and they need a communication response, and the scientific community needs to be putting forward how these regulations will be impacted. And I think that is a very, very important discussion currently in Europe, but my point is, it is now emerging as an important global discussion, because without the ability to transfer of personal data and the innovations developed around science using personal data, it will eventually impede the exchange of knowledge and know-how. And of course, this then would be a threat to the issues I raised earlier in this intervention around the role of science in contributing to global health. So I suppose I need to conclude. So therefore, I suppose one message for me to impart to you today is then to ask you to consider joining us at the United Nations in September. We will be shortly having a program, and I feel that India and Indian-led science in collaboration with its many partners has a hugely important contribution to make, and I would like to enable that through the creation of this United Nations engagement, which primarily is one of communication to global policymakers. So with that, I believe I should conclude, and it just remains for me to thank you indeed again. I look forward to reading of the conclusions of this meeting, and we will be in office of Manoj to facilitate cooperation in the future. So thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Giri. Thank you for your valuable inputs.
Yeah, with the permission of chair, I would like to, if any questions, would you like to have from our audience? Or maybe from our experts?
Please.
Krishna, would you like to say something?
I was very impressed with what was mentioned about many initiatives in Europe. Communicating about the scientific results to both decision makers and all the general people. In this context, I would like to mention something about